All right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Big Game Hunters. It's Wednesday today. We got myself, Landon Hood, Jason Berard, senior search consultant / sexy man. And today we're going to talk about a very important topic that a lot of people don't really think about. It's why the best hire might not have the best resume. So, I mean, a lot of times people will look, especially with entry-level jobs, and you might see a resume that has, a great college, the right qualifications, everything looks fine, everything looks perfect. And then on the other end, you might have somebody who has maybe, they've jumped around a little bit, they didn't go to the best college, and so it seems like the obvious choice is to pick, the clear choice, the obvious one. But a lot of things that aren't taken into account is personal situations. So a lot of people maybe were raised in, more privileged environments. A lot of people were maybe raised in more, underprivileged environments. So some people maybe who had the best, rich parents, who had the access to the best education, had the access to, the greatest nannies versus, somebody who maybe had to, work some, side jobs, jump around a little bit, support their family. It's really hard to discount somebody like that.
Yeah, I think first of all, let's back it up a bit. I understand where a lot of recruiters or HR would be coming from when they're reviewing the resumes, and they're just going like this, because the average review is 30 seconds, right? Like a good recruiter will look at a resume for less than 30 seconds, and they can be like, yes,
you can't spend your time.
What's really challenging is at the review of the resume part of the process. What's really challenging is to add context behind everything. So that's what an interview is for. But I think all too often a lot of somewhat applicable or even really applicable candidates get disqualified before they even have an opportunity to sort of walk you through and give you that context because, time and everything like that, you can't interview everyone and we understand that. But I also think all too often, the best hire is coming from that other pile.
Yeah.
Coming from the scrappers pile.
I mean, look at some of the most successful people in the world. They came from, they had to overcome obstacles. If somebody's, dealt with strife in their life, if somebody's dealt from, they've worked their way up from an underprivileged situation and gotten to the point where they're qualified enough to be looked at, I mean, that shows moxie. That shows the ability to, potentially, be successful going further. If they've dealt with stuff in their life, in personal wise, economics wise, and they're at this point, maybe business challenges for them aren't going to be as scary. And it also at the same time, they're more willing to take on responsibilities that maybe somebody who has this privileged upbringing, who expects the world to be handed to them, wouldn't be open to. So, manual labor type tasks, low level, entry level type jobs, somebody taking on things that, they think are beneath them, oftentimes, the entry level person in particular, that person is the better one, the privileged
or
one.
Going above the call of duty, right? Like that's what a lot of people, a lot of prospective employers look for is that call of duty. And it's not to say who would be qualified as this side of the table or that side of the table, but when a couple of red flags that people will see in resumes is why did they jump around so much? Why did they leave this company to go join this company? Yeah. What kind of school is this? And those are valid questions, but they're not the right ones when you're determining who the right candidate is.
And the best HR directors, HR managers can look at a resume and maybe see, okay, this person went from a cashier job for a year and they switched, to another entry level job and maybe not just immediately think, oh, job hopper, sort of think behind what could be there, where was it? How long have they been doing it? Oftentimes switching jobs can be as simple as, they were supporting their family members. They couldn't put in the time at that cashier job. They simply weren't able to put in the hours, so they had to switch jobs. Yep. And so being open to that and not discounting those people, I think is very important. And the best HR, managers can pick those things out.
Yeah, I think one of the best things that they can do is take red flags and turn them yellow. Right? So if you see a red flag, red flags all over it. Well, how do we approach the hiring manager with the flags and say, there's some cautionary tales here, but we want to dive into it because what this tells us is a potential story that could make this person thrive in our environment. I've had times where we've had 5 or 6 candidates in the mix, and I thought that maybe the candidate that got the job was the 5th out of 6 in my opinion, from what I was told. But so many different things play into factor, right? Culture and everything like that, and the biggest thing that companies are finding now is, credentials and credentials and certifications and education. They're great, perfect, but do they really matter at the end of the day? Do you need a degree to succeed in certain business environments? Do you need certain certifications? What it does is it tells you that you went through the program, you got the applicable training, and you can hang it up on the wall.
Spent the money.
But once you're in that interview process, all of those certifications, all those degrees, they get hung up on the wall. And that's it. So they might be able to be, for example, if you're looking at your resumes, they might be the thing that gets you in there. But what we find too is, so like silver spoon versus scrappy, is the scrappier ones are the ones that can come out on top because they're willing to push harder in the interview process and to follow up more aggressively and to keep front of mind when the final decision's being made.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And there's a great TED talk on this that you guys should check out. It's called Silver Spoons versus Scrappers.
Yeah.
One of the leading HR directors in the United States, did it. And it's really enlightening. And I think it's a great topic to think about.
Yeah, it's great. Check it out because I think all too often, again, people might disregard their potential candidacy before they even go into an interview process because they don't think that they'd be necessarily qualified. Yeah. If you're 27 years old and they're looking for 10 years of experience and you don't apply, you're doing yourself a huge disservice, because if they see your profile with 5 years of experience but it's really applicable, they're probably still going to be interested in potentially taking a look. And all we need sometimes is that potential to break through to that career choice that you want to get next.
Absolutely.
So it's a Big Game Hunters Wednesday. Jason Berard, Landon Hood. We'll see you next week. We'll see you then. Big game.